What's up, guys? My name is Jack Buehring. Today we're going to talk about social media entrepreneurship. You probably won't ever be in see a presentation like this again. I have very interesting entrepreneurial endeavors. They're not necessarily conventional. You might be aware of one. We're probably aware of at least one. You might be aware of both of these companies. They're very active in the social media world of St. Louis Blues, and definitely in Mizzou, TikTok, and Instagram and all that. So you might have seen us even at a tailgate doing interviews. So just to start off on what social entrepreneurship is, it's the process in which people develop and fund a for-profit business that has positive impact on social value and addresses social issues. So a lot of social entrepreneurs have a lot of fun and get a lot of enjoyment out of this stuff. Engaging in this area of commerce, myself included. One example of this is Circle. I'm particularly passionate about. Has anyone heard of Circle by chance? It's a very niche European account. It's not necessarily niche because it has over 50 million views, but it might be European because not many people know what it is. But it's like a techno house music YouTube channel that does live sets. Instead of in like a club or like a festival, they do it in like gorgeous places, timeless places all over the world. So this is Boris Brejcha. He's performing in like a Roman Colosseum. The top left there is Eli and Fur performing a live set on the top of a mountain in Italy. And this spot right here is Black Coffee, a South African DJ performing in a museum in France. And so just absolutely drop-dead gorgeous environments, and the aesthetics is totally cool. And the founders of that were just passionate about both of those things and created a for-profit business using that. They sell vinyls and they organize festivals. So that's an example of a business that we might not talk about in business school that is making money and positively impacting the world. You know, you never know who you could meet at one of these places could change your life. Barstool Sports is kind of a company that everybody is at least familiar with, definitely in college, definitely a college brand. Started off as a Boston sports commentary website that involved opinion pieces, kind of what you thought about the Red Sox or whatever. And they would have events at bars that were attended by like 10 males, according to Elio. And so they wanted to have like a more diverse, people inclusive event. And so eventually it got up to be massive, and it was sold to Penn Entertainment for $388 million. So the idea that this is a kind of these companies are not making money and they're inferior to the corporate structure or to any other business structure that we're familiar with in true last couple level is not true. And I think time has definitely empowered these social media companies, and as technology increases, we've seen a movement towards social entrepreneurship. This is Dave Portnoy doing a pizza review at Shakespeare's, actually. And the foundation of social entrepreneurship is kind of, wouldn't it be cool if, or wouldn't it be funny if, or what if we did this? And so it's very creative in nature. And so for a social entrepreneur, life is a dance. It's not necessarily graduation, promotion, moving through these set pieces. It's more of a dancing with where the social market wants you to go, what the social market is passionate about at the time. And so that's kind of something about social entrepreneurship that is very interesting. They play a role as a change agent in the social sector. They're changing the way that we operate in society. They act boldly. They make big moves that are controversial for sure. They have a mission with a genuine social value. Some companies have a mission statement. They say they care about, the environment or people, and I think the general consensus is that they don't necessarily do that. Social entrepreneurs definitely do that. You know exactly how they're benefiting society, and usually you're for it. They're relentlessly pursuing new opportunities. They're constantly growing, constantly shifting, constantly innovating, constantly seeing what the next move is. They're taking heightened accountability to their customers for the outcome. If it's bad stuff, if it's working, they're going to keep doing it. If it's not working, they're going to move, they're going to hire someone else, or the person's going to quit entirely. And because the whole point of it is the customer. So a consumer-based company that's based on social interaction is definitely involves heightened accountability. Just a SWOT analysis of social entrepreneurship as a business structure, as something you might consider. Strengths are following your passion and changing the world by being yourself. That's something that we might not hear a lot, that I think is very important. In college, we kind of question ourselves: what do I want to do? What job do I want? Social entrepreneurship allows you to really be yourself and to really follow your dreams, which at the end of the day is something that, as kids we wanted to do. As adults, we always want to do. If we had $10 million, we'd do it. So why not do it when you're a young adult? You can make mistakes and still, come back to your parents and get a good entry-level job and figure it out, if it doesn't work out. And that's sort of a big strength. Weakness is high risk. The opportunity cost is there. You could get started at an investment bank and make $100K out the gate, or you could be a social entrepreneur. You're probably making half that, best case scenario. It's just it's not something that you can just hop in and start making millions of dollars. Now, it is something you can make millions of dollars in, as we saw with Barstool, but the process of it might take a bit longer. So you're definitely going to need to be passionate. You definitely need to love what you're doing. In that sense, it's also not financially efficient. So you're not spending every penny necessarily in the best way as the accountants would see it. Opportunities, life fulfillment. You might die saying you gave it your best shot. You might be like, hey, I gave it a shot. Why not try it all if you only live once? You definitely feel that if you pursue this. Connection to communities you're passionate about. I've met people all over Mizzou that I'm really so glad to have met, and so many people in the St. Louis community that have interacted with my brand that have really made me a better person. Threats, you're kind of labeled as like that guy, which is definitely a thing, not like him, he's him, but that guy. Like an entrepreneurial, like, oh, he's got a brand, hey, Red Cup. When I was doing Red Cup, sometimes you feel like that's kind of how you're labeled socially. That's what happens when you do stuff like this. So if you have self-image issues, if you're like, oh, I don't want people to think this about me, you should definitely be aware that that's a massive threat. And then another threat is trying your best and failing. So some people will never try because they don't want to fail. Some people don't want to study 8 hours for a test because they don't want to study hard and get a B or get a C+ and be like, I'm just an idiot. So they're not going to try it all. But why not try, in my opinion? Social entrepreneurs try their best. Sometimes they fail, but they like the process of trying their best. But it's a threat. You can totally fail. If you're considering being a social entrepreneur, you have to find your thing. You have to find your passion, something that gives you goosebumps. Nobody can tell you what that is. It's very, very individual. You have experiences all the time. You're experiencing me talking right now, or you're experiencing your computer. Do whatever. Not up to me. But you have to decide the experiences that give you passion, that give you goosebumps, that shock you, that make you be like, yes, and you have to follow those. You have to keep researching, stay interested in those experiences, watch for opportunities to get involved, and your life quality will increase. You'll be happier if you're considering being a social entrepreneur. But you have to find your thing. Blues Buzz blog, just get started. This is my first company you might be familiar with. It started out in 2017 as a website blog with my business partner PJ. I didn't get involved until 2019 after I did a speech that some of you might be familiar with for the Stanley Cup, and it kind of got very famous, and so I became sort of a micro person of interest in that area of Twitter. PJ reached out to me, but before that it was a website blog, and they would write articles about the players. He would get, he got a press pass to go and interview Tarasenko after the Winter Classic in I forgot when that was, 2017, 2018, versus the Blackhawks. And so we got connections to that inner press, the inner St. Louis journalism very early on, which allowed our brand to grow. Right now, it's a fully developed social media brand. So what does that look like? What does it look like when a brand has made it, when it's healthy and interacting with its followers in a way that is healthy? Well, it's selling merchandise. We're selling merchandise very well. Last Thursday, we sold 50-ish hoodies at Harpo's, which we'll talk about later. We post different kinds of content, like memes and game highlights. Some people might say memes are not very businessy. I think the past couple of years have definitely proved that that's not the case. They can spread company awareness, they can spread company sentiments very well and very effectively. Game highlights, that's important stuff because it connects, the fan of the brand to what the brand is about, which is the St. Louis Blues. Sorry, I don't think we're doing any questions. Are we doing questions or? We'll do questions at the end. Sorry. It also engages with its community on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, and looking forward in the future in person, which we'll talk about later. So a really, really successful social media brand can have events and people will show up to them. So that is definitely the end goal for Blues Buzz, in my opinion. But a SWOT analysis of doing this company is the strengths. You're going to post a lot. We're posting every day. We're posting the final score. We're posting every day. We do a giveaway. So every time the Blues play, we do a giveaway. If you guess the player that scores the first goal and the final score, you win a hoodie. So that is a great thing we'll talk about later, but we're posting all the time. Media availability is high. There's not a lot of companies doing what we're doing, so people that are interested in St. Louis Blues content on Twitter or on Instagram, they're going to find us pretty quickly. And we have a strong formula, a strong business strategy for success in that niche industry, in my opinion. Weaknesses, it's a smaller niche market. It's not massive. We're a big fish in a small pond, or medium-sized fish in a small pond. It's based entirely off the Blues, so the Blues are tanking right now as far as sports are concerned. We sold all of our best players, and we're not supposed to win a lot of games. When that happens, that's a market low for us. People aren't going to be liking tweets. People aren't going to be retweeting anything. There's not as many highlights. People aren't as passionate about the brand. And so that is definitely a weakness. And then side gig time commitment, it's not a full-time job, so we are not able to put in the full-time commitment to it right now. Opportunities, we capitalize on young adult Blues fan demographic. We're 18 to 25. We are young. Me and PJ are young guys. We're going out. We're having fun. And so we can capitalize on the Blues fans that are exactly like that. And we can relate to them directly. And so that's a real opportunity zone that not a lot of Blues fans accounts are extroverted guys going out that are 18 to 25 that you would know, that you'd see around and be like, oh, that's Blues Buzz, so that's a huge opportunity. We have the opportunity to create a real life social club of fans, which is obviously amazing to do as a brand, especially as a social entrepreneur. But that's an opportunity we're going to talk about later. The threats, again, we talked about St. Louis Blues performance and then substitution. Somebody funnier could come along with better content and better highlights and better footage with a competitive advantage, and we could get wiped out. And the hoodies, hoodies are not selling, and we lose. We're going to talk about Dr. Fournier's conceptualization of brand relationships. This is a very impactful academic study done in 1998, so before social media. And so with social media, we can definitely understand this more than in 1998 when it came out. But she's saying that relationships we have with brands in our head are the exact same as the relationships we have with human beings as far as mental processing is concerned. So based on the law of reciprocity, I have trouble with that word, but it's be nice to others and others will be nice to you. We develop relationships with brands based on love, passion, self-connection. Is this brand like me? Love, passion. Do I love this brand? Do I have passion for this brand? Do I love, for something that I love is like Chick-fil-A. I love Chick-fil-A. We love Chick-fil-A. Self-connection. You feel connected to a brand. I feel connected to Willie's. I go to Willie's a lot. I feel connected to the bar scene brands here. Interdependence. I have to buy, my utility bill, so I have to pay Ameren. Intimacy, I have an intimate connection to the brand. Let's say, hypothetically, I grew up and my grandpa always bought Chuckles, the candy bar, or whatever, the candy. I would have an intimate relationship with that brand. Brand partner quality, if the brand is really good, we're gonna develop that. It's like seeing a guy that always does your homework in class. You're like, that's a dependable guy that I want to be around because he gets the job done. And that's how we view some brands. This is a new human development. Dr. Fournier says consumers form relationships with brands perhaps to soothe the empty self left behind by society's abandonment of tradition and community. And I think that's definitely true. I'm not sure the exact percentages, but I know for a fact that 25% roughly of religious people in America attend weekly service, and 75% roughly of Americans of Facebook users use Facebook every day. So the Facebook algorithm you're interacting with every day, and regardless of whether or not you like it, it's impacting the way you buy, the way you see things, and the things you see. And that's a new human development. So we're developing with the algorithm much more than we're developing a relationship with a priest or with a religious organization as a society. The case of De Beers diamonds. So De Beers is a titan of the diamond industry in the late 30s, 60% of the diamond industry, which is, I can tell you, a lot. It's struggling in 1939. 10% of the marriage wedding ring market includes a diamond. It's sort of a luxury thing for rich people. So they get together and they form a marketing campaign to associate diamonds with engagement rings. This quote, "Diamonds last forever." And post-World War II, 80% of wedding rings had diamonds. That is a 70% increase in industry market space. Untold of, just a perfect example of how marketing and brand association or product association can lead to long-term results. So the slogan "Power of a Diamond is Forever" means that we're affiliating a diamond with marriage. We're affiliating a De Beers diamond with marriage. Both are forever. Both we should spend a lot of time in. It should be a big, expensive gift. If you're going to buy a diamond, why not buy the most expensive one? Because you're going to have it forever. It's a timeless gift, and it's big and expensive. And also the love, passion aspect of the brand. So when we see De Beers, we're going to affiliate it with marriage, with love, with true connection, with a soulmate, etc., etc. And so that brand relation is important to that De Beers campaign that did so well. This is something I wrote on a note card yesterday. It is just some of the ways that I view some brands in my head, because we view them in the same way as we would view a human relationship. So like Old Vienna, those are the guys that do the Luther Burden chips, the wide receiver, who is a big name at Mizzou. And he catches football because Luther Burden plays football. And so I affiliate Mizzou football with Old Vienna. Every Kiss Begins with K. This is that brand that sells jewelry. We've all heard Every Kiss Begins with K. Peter Pan, for some reason, this peanut butter company decided to affiliate the Disney character, sort of male fairy boy who never chooses to grow up, with peanut butter. But I like it. But when I view peanut butter and you view Peter Pan next to Jif, you see Peter Pan, the peanut butter jar, as more of a fairy, Disney-esque jar. That's how your brain works. And so Altoids is more of a neutral brand. People don't see Altoids and necessarily things go dancing in their head, and they don't have a lot of affiliation with it. It's kind of like toothpaste, it's like, it's a thing you gotta buy if you want the product. Patagonia is kind of a grainy thing. When we talk about wearing comfy outdoors gear, we want a company that's outdoorsy. Nesquik is a bunny. That's a childhood brand. We grew up with Nesquik. Nesquik did this to affiliate a bunny, something that children are familiar with, to their product. And so when we grow up and we're 21 and we're looking for chocolate syrup and we see Nesquik, we affiliate that brand with our childhood and we're more likely to buy it. So that's a brand relationship. Busey Bank, that's my dad's bank. They're very professional. They tried to start a movement called Get Coins Moving, hashtag Get Coins Moving it was called. And the point of it is to spend coins because we need to get coins moving. So that's what their brand is affiliated with. That's what they want to do. And another one of their things was Merry Christmas. Make sure you don't get scammed. And so that's how their brand is very serious. Their brand is very professional. They are here to be your banker and to let you know don't lose your money. and that's what the brand, Busey Bank's brand does. So that's kind of just like a cautious, I just want to let you know what that guy's doing there. So this is the scientific analysis that Dr. Fournier did with social rewards like emotions at the top and utilitarian functional rewards like it gets the job done at the bottom, and then strong to weak. So we talked about Altoids or Colgate toothbrush. That's a casual acquaintance. That's just something that you see him around. You're like, oh, I'm at the bar, no one else is here. I guess I'm going to talk to that guy. Or so there's not a real strong relationship there. High reward and weak relationship. An example of that is compartmentalized friendship. So like, I don't always use a grocery store, right? But when I use a grocery store, a brand that I like is Hy-Vee. I just like to go there. I think it's cool. So that's compartmentalized friendship. If I'm going to Chicago, I'm going to hang out with my Chicago friends, but I wouldn't consider them to be my best friends. So I compartmentalize that into a category of relationships. High reward and strong relationships, that's a marriage partner. So if Mizzou football, if you're a big Mizzou football, that's a marriage. If you're like for me, my parents met at Enterprise Rent-A-Car, and so that's an important brand to me. And that's just something that's built into my genetic code, built into my life experience. A rival is up there, which I think is interesting. So like if you're a Mizzou fan, Kansas is up there. It was actually pretty close to brand analysis. Like you have a relationship with Kansas if you don't like Kansas. So it's an important brand. Strong relationship and utilitarian functional, that's master and slave. That's Marlboro cigarettes, that's Juul, that's, if you're addicted to gambling, it'd be your local casino brand. Or a phone provider is around there, that's more of a business partner. But again, that's strong relationship and functional is more of a master and slave dependent brand. So the branding really doesn't need to dress up because you're going to use it regardless. How do social media brands fit into this? Social has the ability to bring to life something that is real, funny, and can spark engagement and conversation. That's Eduardo Luz, Kraft Heinz president of grocery. I got that from a book. I didn't just go skimming the president of grocery of Kraft Heinz's quotes. But social really does give the opportunity for human beings to connect with brands as if they were a person. So that brand theory of human relationships and brand relationships being the same really combines at social media. It meets at social media. This is where businesses can have media accounts, humans can have media accounts, and they can interact. So melding brand management, melding that with social media growth. If I was running a company, if you want to start a company, if you want to run your own business, you need to find an identity customers can have a relationship with. So if Blues Buzz, my company, walked in right now, what would it look like? What would it say? What would people think? Who would like the brand and who would not like the brand? That's just as important because you can't be a successful brand without entering an area and taking a stance on something to where someone might not like it. So it should be as human as possible. You should be able to have a relationship with it, positive or negative. Number 2 is engage. You have to engage. Every brand wants you to engage with them, or at least the smart ones know that you should be engaging. It should be a two-way street. Most companies should be a two-way street. It should not be people at Nesquik, for example, they're like, at Nesquik, I love your product, it's awesome, and Nesquik doesn't respond, and you just tweet it out and it gets no likes. Nesquik should be liking it. Healthy brands are liking it. Young brands that are developing are for sure liking it, and they're developing a relationship with their partners or with their customers and engaging with them. Unite consumers. Not all brands are going to do this, but as my social media brands tend to do this, we're going to unite all of our consumers under a single banner, under an event, under something, and the last step is to enlist consumers to develop your brand. So what you want to do is have consumers contribute to where your brand goes. Barstool Sports does this very well. Circle does this. Where should we have our next event? What do you want next from us? Streamers, video gamers who do that Twitch stuff, and they have consumers pay money to comment. Like they're contributing directly in the process of developing how that brand goes, how that gamer goes, how that company, what they do. And so social entrepreneurship, that is the most important step of a fully developed, healthy, moving forward social endeavor. As far as my brand development went, using those steps, we had a brand story and identity of buzzin' is kind of our new phrase. It's slightly alcoholic tendencies of, hey, the boys are buzzing is a hockey phrase. Oh, they're buzzing, the boys are buzzing. That's what they'll say. The Canadians who play hockey would say that in that voice. I would not say that in that voice. But it is also sort of has this kind of party alcoholic relationship. And so who doesn't like, a lot of people probably don't, but a lot of people do like having a beer and watching sports. And so that is sort of the identity that we are kind of that 21 to 25, you're a young adult, you like the blues, you're interested in funny content, and you like to have a good time. This is not a serious brand. It's articulated with originality. It for sure is. That speech I did a long time ago, 5 years ago, was kind of an original speech. I used to do a lot of interesting Snapchat stuff when I was in high school, as I'm sure some of you are aware, which I don't do that stuff anymore, but originality is really important in developing a brand, and I think that has to do with why my brands have been so successful. Is a strength of mine is originality. You have to be original to make a brand. You can't be a Walmart version of another brand, or you're gonna lose. You need conscious human connection. People need to like, retweet, and share your stuff. Consumers then tell their friends about it. More awareness. If I like a tweet, all my followers see it, etc., etc. With this 2K bar tab we had last Thursday at Harpo's. Free Blues bombs every time the Blues score. We'll talk about that later, but that had a lot of buzz. People were talking about it. People came up to me that are in like acquaintances of mine that were like, oh, I saw it and I didn't go, and I was like, people were telling me about it, And so when you have an event and you interact with a customer, it's not just that customer. It's also their extended social network, which we'll get to later. Hoodie giveaways are a big part of our Blues Buzz brand. We're giving away hoodies all the time. That allows us to reward people for participating with us. You want to be a part of our story, you want to comment, you like Blues Buzz, you follow us, we make hoodies. We've got a couple hoodies we can give away because we can financially write that off. It's not a sunk cost because we want to help you out, stockholders' equity. Privately owned companies don't have that. That's why Enterprise Rent-A-Car, privately owned, is very active in the St. Louis community, more so than Budweiser. Enterprise Center, they bought St. Louis City. The Taylor family runs that. Enterprise Rent-A-Car is a privately owned company, and they're very involved in St. Louis, Missouri. We're not as involved. We don't make as much money as Enterprise Rent-A-Car, but we do give away hoodies to our followers, and that allows us to reward people for engaging with us, which a private company has to do. And social entrepreneurship certainly has to do. Gives us market data. Who's liking our post? Who's commenting our post? When you comment and you enter this giveaway, the 4,546 people that entered this giveaway, we can click on any one of those users and see how old they are, where they live, take a look at their profile picture, what's their bio, what information can we learn about who wants to be a part of our brand, who is a part of our brand, so we can make content for them that they like. It spreads brand salience, which we'll talk about. Brand salience is the amount that a brand is thought of, mentioned, talked about in your head, etc. The perfect example of this that I think is really good is Nye Technologies. It's a startup piloting in Boulder, Colorado, so you might not be familiar with it. You probably aren't. But this is their Changes Nye poster that they have at a ton of small businesses around Boulder. And so Boulder has a large market share of people who are really virtuous and they support local, and that's a big deal to them. And so Nye has brand awareness at all. So if you go to enough of these stores, eventually you're going to be like, what is this about? Your brand salience. When you have these posters around, people think about it, they mention it, they're like, do you see that sign? What is that? They talk about it. It's in your head, and that's really what brands and social entrepreneurship needs to do. About our Harpo's event, it was a $2,000 bar tab if you're wearing one of our hoodies. We had a lot of people show up, actually. I don't want to quantify it because I'd say around I don't want to quantify it, but we had a lot of people there. The tab was definitely used to the max. Free blue bombs for all of Harpo's if the St. Louis Blues score a goal. The final score was 6-3. They couldn't quantify how many people were in the bar. You can't be like, oh, the Blues scored, there's 48 people in the bar, we're gonna pour exactly 48. So they poured a lot more than that. So everybody had probably more than 6 if you were there from start to finish. And a lot of people had a great time. Booze and Blues, we've made that connection. Blues Buzz, St. Louis Blues, Booze, Harpo's, Mizzou brand. So we've connected a lot of things that you like, that you're interested in with our brand. And that's what a successful brand is gonna do as far as collaboration is concerned. We also sold hoodies for below average price. Red Cup Mizzou is my other brand that I did in spring 21. I got this DM asking if I wanted to do it. It's a new Instagram account with like no followers, based off Red Cup News, the national branch, sort of like a Barstool. They just post sort of viral videos about college and they interview people. And I thought about it and I thought the creative opportunity to run my own brand was too much to turn down, like a Mizzou brand. I kind of wanted to have fun with it, you know, that's what it's about for me, that's a dance. But a big influence for me is Vice Media. So when I was a freshman, I went to school out in New York, Southern Connecticut, Fairfield University. I was a rower there, actually. I was a short guy in the front of the boat who says row, the coxswain. I walked on as a joke and I ended up being on the team. And in the weekends, we'd go to New York and Lower East Side and you talk to all these people. And one thing you'll realize is Vice Media, which is this kind of brand that if you're in Missouri, you see it as sort of like this weird snap story thing beneath your stories. But Vice Media was founded by social entrepreneurs Gavin McInnes, Sarush Alvi, and Shane Smith. And they create Vice Media in Montreal, actually, via the Canadian government. So there's a ton of Haitian immigrants who don't have a centralized journalistic like system. So Canada, Montreal funds Vice to create a magazine for the Haitian immigrants to be in the know about events. And so they would do that on the first 2 pages, and then they'd print 10 pages of just random funny stuff, of interviewing like the fat guy with the purple mohawk in the grocery store, and stuff like that. Just funny, anything they could find that they thought was funny. Wouldn't it be cool if, wouldn't it be funny if, a bar crawl tour of Montreal or anything like that. And so they get bought out by VC, or they get some funding and they move to New York. In early 2000s, New York, New York went from being very dangerous to being very clean. Manhattan was very clean, it was very well run. And so Brooklyn became kind of a lower rent area where a lot of poor young adults would go. And so the hipster scene just kicked off there. That's where you get the term hipster, is early 2000s New York City. And Vice Media was handing out free magazines in like literally documenting the culture. Who is a hipster that's interesting? Oh, this guy with a cool mustache. Here's a page article about it. You know, and so Vice, just by documenting the culture, became a very important media force that we know today. It's definitely changed a lot since the early 2000s, but it was very influential to me, hearing these stories from people who were alive back then about what Vice was doing. This is Max Fish. It's an old bar on the Lower East Side. If anyone's familiar with the Strokes, the Yeah Yeah Yeahs, the White Stripes even, they're from Detroit, but when all these bands that were national superstars, international rock stars, were in New York, they'd be hanging around Max Fish, smoking cigarettes, going crazy. Like, that was hypothetically like a Willie's of national relevance in New York City. And I visited it, and it was closed down and it didn't exist. And it was just sort of like a garage, like. And I thought about that a lot on the flight home and on the taxi to my flight, and I was like, that's totally could happen to Mizzou culture. That could happen to anybody. And so I felt this need to kind of want to record Mizzou culture and document it, and I thought Red Cup would be a really cool way to do that. A SWOT analysis of Red Cup, it's a smaller company, it didn't last as long, but strengths are, it's very versatile. When we had the company, we could basically do whatever we wanted. They gave us a set of rules, I didn't follow them, because I just was like, fire me, I don't really want to follow your rules, because I know Mizzou better than you do. And they were like, that's fine, they let me roll with it. But it's versatile, we could interview anybody, we could create our own identity. Weakness is we had $0 funding and no one knew who we were. So we just kind of started, create a new game mode, like, this is literally just a raw brand, let's see what you can do with it, which I kind of like that challenge. The opportunities you can utilize and expand your social network, right? So if you're from St. Louis or Kansas City, the probability that you know someone in a room like this is high. I know a couple people in this room. And utilizing and expanding that social network, talking to people like that about, what you're doing, and talking to friends about that, and going out into the social scene and utilizing that, you end up meeting people who are really interested in the same thing you are. And I forgot its name. His name is I Ching or something, I Ching. He's a Chinese philosopher, I think, or maybe Japanese. And he said, if you have passion, friends will come to you like a hair collapsing hair or something like that. Totally butchered the translation and totally got the name wrong. But that idea of like a hair clasping hair, that's what happens. You meet really cool people and your social network expands and you have business opportunities. I've collaborated with both Willys and Harpo's, which are awesome opportunities. And, lifelong stories. Threats or social ramifications. People might think you're weird for being that guy. Again, we talked about this. It might fail. You could try and do something bold and offend someone. Some people don't like entrepreneurs. A lot of people don't like entrepreneurs. They think, what do you think you're the main character because you're trying to do something, you're trying to benefit society, you have to post about it a lot, there's a lot of work involved, and some people get a lot of security out of joining a collective group. And so they might not socially engage with that passion, and that's definitely a threat. First of all, you need a strong social network to start a brand like this. Definitely at Mizzou. I definitely focused on Mizzou Greek Life, me personally, because that's where a lot of my social network was. I picked 3 guys that I thought would be a great foundation. Henry Politz, Thom Mullen, who I grew up with, went to grade school and high school with, and Jake Sherman, who's a great guy. Thom Mullen and Jake Sherman said yes and then backed out. They got too busy. But Thom ended up being the IFC president, so president of all the fraternities, and Jake Sherman ended up being IFC president the next year. So right now he is current IFC president. And so that just goes to show like how important the connections that you have, the connections of people you want to do business with are. So like I just so happened, I don't think I got lucky because I knew these guys were winners. And knowing people like this with the connections that they have is really important for a small brand. And Henry Politz did work on the brand with me, and we'll talk about that. But moving forward with Greek Life, this is the 2022 PHA and IFC, Panhellenic Association and Interfraternal Council Community Academic Report. I've charted it up. The orange line is Dean's List. The blues line is overall members. Since the foundation of Greek Life at Mizzou in 1839 by the Zeta Phi chapter ended up being Beta Theta Pi, but it ended up being Zeta Phi at the time. Greek Life has played a vital role in the development of Mizzou culture. Multiple buildings at Mizzou are named after alums of my fraternity, but multiple fraternities have namesakes of alums who have donated millions of dollars. They are the highest funding organizations in the group or in the college, and it's something that the college needs to support. They're on again, off again, depending on the current times, but right now, I mean, you take a look at Pi Phi at the top here. They have like 277 members and 230 something members of the Dean's List. Like that's crazy. I think they averaged a 3.8 GPA. It's almost a bit too crazy, but Like, that just goes to show you how powerful having a network and a community of smart people that are motivated can be. I'm sure that some of these girls in Pi-Fi would not have gotten on the dean's list if they weren't a part of that community that was developing healthy habits. And that, I just know that because that's the first one. Most of these at the top are sororities. This is the smartest fraternity by grade point average in fall 2022. I don't want to say the name of it because I've been saying it too much, but we're gonna revisit that data as bubbles, because that's how a network works. So first of all, this is such an interesting graph. I love this graph. Nobody ever uses these bubbles, I feel. I don't know, it's kind of a weird graph, but the way I want you to visualize the amount of people in a fraternity or sorority is as if they were all standing in a circle together. And why I think that's important is because if we graph that by number of people, notice how they interlap or they interlude and they combine together to form a massive line of, like, I mean, Pi-Phi is one of the most populous members, and they're up there with a bunch of other fraternities and sororities, because I know Delt has a lot too. But when they combine together, I mean, that is a foundation of over 1,000 strong people who have traditions that they're all doing, and they have a similar mindset on life. That is a great market to take advantage of. That is something that you're going to want to look for. And it's almost a market that is unlike anything else. So what I thought about with Red Cup Mizzou entrepreneurial strategy as far as that is concerned is how can we activate the Greek life community to engage with our brand. So not just, hey, I like this, and hey, I follow Red Cup, and I saw that post you did. But how can we get a dialogue going? How can we start that two-way street that we talked about? How can you communicate with Red Cup, and how can Red Cup communicate with you? And so what we did is we targeted Greek life with some of our content on TikTok. And so we asked we asked people at tailgates, we went around, and we asked them, what's the worst fraternity on campus? What's the best sorority on campus? What's the best bar in Columbia? Now you might say, hey, that's controversial. Your brand is taking a controversial stance. Are you spreading, is your brand taking a bad stance? Does Red Cup Mizzou not like that fraternity? And it's usually with my fraternity, actually tends to be the most hated. No, Red Cup is a branded mirror of Mizzou Greek life. The people who used Red Cup Mizzou were the same people in the videos, the same people as the product. So it was basically a forum for discussion, similar to how Reddit works, or how Discord works, where the people who use it are changing it as it goes. But we took conversations that all these people are having in their different fraternities and sororities, and we're combining it into an open source network that people can comment on and find their profiles and engage with personally. Maybe you see a person who said that their favorite bar was Willie's in the video, you see them at Willie's and you're like, hey, you're the guy who was on Red Cup. You're like, yeah. And you start that conversation and you build that community via the two-way conversation. But Red Cup itself is a mirror. So it isn't engaging in the conversation. It's just literally the platform itself, similar to how Facebook works with groups, etc. The consumers become the product and interact with it, so it's a bit of a cycle. There's a strategic problem with Red Cup Mizzou after we did that in the fall of substitution. What's to stop somebody else from doing that? We've seen thousands of men on the street, women on the street, interview videos of, my personal favorite is, would you ever date a short guy? Because the answer is always no, and I'm short, and I'm like, oh, that's awesome, love that one. But what's to stop somebody else from doing this? What's to stop somebody else from doing those interviews? How could we generate authenticity and differentiate, which we talked about with brand identity, you have to do, while simultaneously being more inclusive to different communities. Sororities were engaging, fraternities were engaging, but we thought we wanted a bit more out of our sorority demographic. And so, enter Bonzo the gorilla. We decided to dress up our friend in a gorilla suit and call him Bonzo. This is someone's mom at Willie's at our event, Red, White, and Bonzo in December. But Bonzo is a belligerent example of brand celebrityism. So like the Geico Gecko, the like Flow from Progressive, etc. Bonzo is just obviously like, hey, Red Cup Mizzou has a gorilla and he wants to talk to you. And it was so belligerent that we thought it was kind of funny that he existed at all, that there's just a gorilla at Mizzou. And so the point of it though was to seek funny, creative female content creators. That was an area of the Mizzou student body that we thought was underrated. We thought that if we looked under hashtag Mizzou, the TikToks that were at the top were not funny. We were like, what? We were like that at the beginning too. Obviously we ended up being at the top, so those were funny. Obviously our videos were funny, but we were like, there's so many funny women that we know at Mizzou that are underrepresented, so we want to give them a platform, because that's what a brand does. It communicates with its community, and it engages and lifts voices up. So we created Big Bonzo's Babe of the Week, which some of you might be. Is anybody here familiar with Big Bonzo's Babe of the Week and all that? Are you familiar with it?
No.
So he's not familiar with it, but it was a thing. It was a weekly award given to a funny female content creator. They got like a gift card and some other stuff. And laden in the terminology of Big Bonzo's Babe of the Week, it's of note, is babe. Now some people didn't like this. They thought it was, you can't say babe, you know what, that's demeaning or whatever, to call a girl a babe. They don't understand how brands laden or insert terminology strategically to form a relationship. So when we say babe, what do you think of? You think of something a partner would say to their partner, you know, in a romantic relationship. So there's romantic undertones to using Babe of the Week, because we want people to interact with our brand in a way that's human and less of a, oh, this is just a thing that happens. You know, this is like winning an award. It's more than that. It's a personal relationship with the brand. So then we went on a speaking tour. I think we spoke at like 3 sororities. I studied abroad in Ireland, so I wasn't here for this. But we utilized our social network to perform funny speeches at multiple sororities around campus. They're eye-catching. They were mandatory. You had to go if you were going to chapter, and that increased brand salience tenfold. We had Red, White, and Bonzo. This was a Red Cup Willie's collaboration. We became the first social media brand to collaborate with a bar, let alone the biggest bar on campus, Willie's, at Mizzou. We created our own shot, the Bonzo Bomb, or the Bonzo Bomber, depending on whether or not you got the bomb or the shot. And we created collab merchandise. And so some of the brand management aspects that went into selecting this merchandise is, if you're a fan of Willie's, the Willie's logo is on the shirt. So this is a Willie's shirt. This isn't a Red Cup shirt. This is a Willie's shirt. On the back is physical Willie's. This is a place you enter. This is a place you identify with. There is a tiger. You go to Mizzou, you like tigers. He's holding a cup. You maybe indulge in alcoholic beverages if you go to Willie's. And on top of all of that is Red Cup in our font. And so there was a lot of thought process that went into selecting that specific design to encourage relationship with the brand. It reminds our followers that we're active members of their community. So even if you couldn't make it to Red, White, and Bonzo, you know that, hey, Red Cup Mizzou is doing something at Willie's. Red Cup Mizzou is in the community. Red Cup Mizzou is affiliated with Mizzou, and it's doing things that other social media accounts aren't doing. There's also brand retention. People are more likely to remember Red Cup because we did an event at Willie's. People are more likely to remember messages that are closer to their personal interests, values, and beliefs. So if you don't like Willie's, if you don't like drinking, and if you believe that Mizzou is horrible and you go to Kansas, you're not going to remember Red Cup Mizzou at all. Brand's going to fly right over your head. So brand retention is important, and you need to, your brand retention, if you try and make everybody remember your brand, nobody's going to remember your brand. You have to specialize and pick a specific group. And so, in conclusion, while there's ups and downs, I followed my passion and made the communities I was passionate about better. I didn't make this slide better though because I forgot the word better. I hope I inspire Mizzou students in my local community to follow their passions and be their true selves. The world needs you, not an Excel sheet filling out AI, because as we all know with ChatGPT, we have enough AI. Thank you.